All right, if y'all ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I have gotten a number of calls and emails from people saying that they really enjoy being able to watch this streaming, but they can't understand what any of us are saying behind the mask. So I am going to pull mine down while we're talking here. You were 6 feet away, and Karleen's got room to get 6 feet away. And so maybe we can be understood. Although I have to tell you, there are sometimes when I just assume y'all don't understand what I'm saying, but we'll try to get that fixed. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? No. If not, I will make a motion for the agenda to be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Kevin here. I think Kevin's visiting his new family. Mike. Well, be better if he was visiting his family. Mike, you want to give us an update on John?
Good morning. Everybody give you guys the sheets there. The first one is September of this year. Was really a really good month. Golf course has not slowed up one bit since we went back up on that. It's line done. It's wide open every single day. You can see, and I wanted to point out one thing on this sheet here was the new 16 of them in September. We typically don't take that in. A lot of those are new, not people that's already been members of the family, but a lot of those are new. That's correct. I've had a lot of them. The sheet right after that, second sheet, is that's September in 2019. An idea of the difference. What we did in 19. People are definitely getting out and quite often. The third sheet I missed the last workshop, so I just want you guys to have that. The third sheet there is August. You can pretty much tell that they're identical months. That's pretty much the one. As far as the guidelines that we're doing when we open back up, the back golf guidelines that mandated by the governor and PGA of America and the 42nd PGA, we have not listed one thing. I stay in contact with every golf course that I talk to. We're exactly what we should do. So I'm not, as far as grades, what it does, still doing the same thing. We did and we first opened up. Checking in the exact same way, we will probably continue to do that. I don't see reason to stop. We're not having any complaints with it. As far as the course goes, we verified greens. They're good. They came back. They're gorgeous. We did our pre-emerge, higher golf course, as well as pre-creek, ball field. That's out. It's in great shape. That's all I hear. They love it, they're safe, they're coming back. So, these projects that we've talked about here, and I hope that when I come back here, that I won't have this well again. Me and Lloyd were talking this minute that we're waiting on one sample to get back. We can probably look it up when they tell us. So, as far as the event center is done, landscaping's all done, we just need to do some cleaning in there. Guys have been using it. Go in and watch the ball game. Brady's been on the last couple of days to go over that. Our guys have been in there, hanging out, watch the ball game. So, everything's good. We just need to keep going.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Jan, you want to do the public works update for us?
Okay, let me busy at the airport right now, not necessarily with airplanes, but trying to get a lot of bureaucratic stuff done. We're currently working on the 5-year capital improvement plan. I think yesterday at 6 o'clock it was finalized with Mr. Frank Myers with aviation programs blessing, and I hope you have that. It is, I think, on your agenda for tomorrow night to adopt, and I think we're ready to adopt based on the discussion I had with Charlie yesterday. The process for that, just to explain to you folks, this is something, this keeps us eligible for grants. It's also a 5-year capital improvement plan, but it's just a plan. There is no commitments on the part of local government, nor on the part of the FAA or the state. It just gives them an idea of what we see as the needs for the airport and a schedule that can be fluid and trying to get those things accomplished. The runway safety project phase 3, the contractor is very close to finishing the punch list. The last item that we have there is seating. The initial seating that the contractor did, for whatever reasons, didn't take, and so they are now back using hydroseeder to precede the areas that were constructed. And hopefully that'll be finished within the next couple of days, if weather, again, weather permitting. The airport inspection, Charlie, I don't know if you provided the commissioners with the inspection letter that you received.
I had not received
September 18th. Every 2 years, folks, the airport goes through an inspection, and that is done by DOT aviation programs. Basically, they look at pavement condition, obstruction, maintenance, those kinds of things. And the chairman had received a copy of that inspection letter. There's 2 items in the letter that are of some concern, and it's because we have now instrument approach at the airport, and the obstructions are trees. These trees are off property, and it may be something that we have to deal with neighboring property owners to remove those trees or trim them back. In addition to that, currently what is happening is we are advertising for quotations or proposals for consulting engineering services. Every 5 or 6 years, what we're required to do, even though our consultant has been with the county since 1968, we're required to put out a request for proposals for selection of an airport engineer. That advertisement is running now. It is in the newspaper, also posted on the state procurement website, and thus far we have 5 engineering firms that have requested the proposals, and we are sending those to them as they the requests come in, and we're maintaining what we call a bid or proposal tabulation sheet. It gives us a record everyone of you correct me if I'm wrong, the deadline is the 16th at 2 p.m. We're, I'm sorry?
I have one more company to send to you that asked for
Well, you need to send those to Susan, my administrative assistant, because she's keeping this,
the,
okay? But, so much for the airport. In case you haven't heard, day before yesterday, we had an accident, a crash at the airport. An airplane attempted to land, hit the runway, bounced, and came back down, and the pilot lost control of the aircraft, spun around, sheared off one of the landing gears and flipped upside down. The FAA was there yesterday, interviewing all parties, and I was there, but it appears that it was pilot error. I mean, there was nothing on the part of the airport that was done wrong, and those things that happened. Any questions on the air?
John, I would just mention that the two occupants of the plane were able to walk away.
Yes, I mean, the injuries were minor. The pilot had a bump on the head, and that was basically all it was. Okay, roads and bridges. Let me start out by saying, and Hubert has already asked me, we have started the 2020 elevated freight paving project, and we'll be doing that weather permitting. We're working right now, Sheridan Estates and Pleasant Gap Circle. We'll be moving from there to the next road, and then the next, and the next, and the next, until we get the project complete. I am having a difficult time, and I know the chairman is aware of it, in that we are short-staffed. I have in the maintenance shop, lost our lead mechanic, so we are short there, and we are 6 people short in the road department. But we're doing the best we can and continuing on. In addition to the paving project, we are also trying to work on the FEMA project, Old Budtown Road Slide, and we're doing that as we have equipment availability and staff availability. We're still cutting trees, trying to cut trees to haul them off. The deadline for that project is December the 30th, and we intend to have it substantially complete by that time. Any questions on roads?
I have a question about, you said Old Bucktown, has to be done by December 30th?
That, Karleen, that is the deadline that FEMA has put on us, and we keep them updated quarterly as to the progress. Now, because of the COVID in the contract, that natural disasters and pandemics are reasons that you're not able to complete it, and so we may have to go back and ask for an extension, and the indications are that if we have to, because of the pandemic, that they will grant us that extension. But we're trying to follow the deadline that we have in front of us right now. Okay, any other questions on roads? Solid waste. you have a copy of the monthly solid waste report. Our tonnage was down a little bit in September, 659 tons of solid waste went through that department. You can see the amount of waste that we're dealing with that is either roadside trash pickup or what we call municipal no-charge waste by agents. And folks, that is substantial. And I think we have budget discussions next week that I'll be discussing with you as to what my recommendations are as far as how we continue to deal with the volumes that we're dealing with right now. The lift station project, the engineer, Karleen is working on design and investigation there. I talked to them yesterday, and we'll be meeting probably, Charlie, this next month to see some of their preliminary stuff. This project is now back on for the entire project, and that is the lift station and the force main with the grant that we were fortunate enough to receive. We might be able to do the entire project over here at one time. But if we have to, we can cut it back in the phases. But by December, we should have for you to see the actual design and bid documents. One of the things that the engineer told me yesterday, that because of the hurricanes that hit the Gulf, the force main that is used at the landfill is called high-density polyethylene, and it's a double-line force main. And because of the petroleum plant shutdowns, there is a short supply of it right now. I would expect, though, and they expect, that by the time we're ready to go to bid, there should be a substantial supply of the high-density polyethylene pipe that is used. Any questions on solid waste?
Go back to roads for just a minute. We're gonna run out of time weather-wise. We're not careful. We need to consider overtime.
There may be times, Hubert, and typically when we do this, there may be times when we have to do overtime. And we charge that to the Gilmer project. Now, and it will show up on our financials as overtime, but then it's reimbursed back to the Gilmer project. One of the problems that I am running into with the 2020 Gilmer project, through no fault of the people that actually put it together, because I wasn't here, is that some of the roads that we have selected to do are requiring additional work other than just the surface treatment. To give you an example, Shirley Estates and Pleasant Gap Circle, what we're having to do is put in what's called a leveling unit. Because the roads were in such bad shape that you have to come back in with hot mix asphalt, and you have to level that surface back out before you put the final surface treatment on it. That is going to drive the cost up because in the formula and the projections that were used, this was not anticipated. I'll keep the chairman abreast of where we are. We may not be able to do all of the roads that were selected this year, and if we're not, if we run out of money, then those roads automatically roll to 2021. But overtime is a possibility.
Well, I think it'd be safe to say that we'll do everything that we can,
We'll do
including
everything.
try to get it all.
Good luck.
And I'll go back to one more, not to get off roads, unless, Hubert, are you finished? Really good. I mean, not good, but finished for the minute. Back to solid waste, I had the chance to tour the Pickens new recycling center that they have. And have you been there yet, Jim?
I have.
It's beautiful. And I know that they have hired a gentleman from Rome that handled their services there. And they are really looking to be a multi-county facility. And I think it benefits us to encourage Gilmer County residents, and if you disagree, let me know, but to take products there, they take glass and everything. And we've been going down to Pickens to take our glass for years, but this gentleman really has figured out a way to make money on all of the recyclables that he takes in. So, but anyway, there'll be more. It'll be opening soon. And
Well, Karleen, and I don't want to, I respect the county for all of its success in the world. That recycling system, which requires separation, would not work for us because we are single stream. We require a facility that takes it all in and sorts it out.
right.
We can't do that. But now, if residents want to take their recyclables there, I'm sure that Mr. Woodard will take $2.4 million capital investment for that facility. And I wish them all the success. To be a regional recycling center, we don't have the wherewithal to be able to separate the recycling. We are doing that at no cost to you as a resident. The solid waste department is bearing that cost, and we'll talk about that next week in budget. But it is a beautiful facility, and I hope that Kenny can make money. I don't see that happening in the near future, but maybe down the road that you can. And if they can become a regional recycling center, it will be great for all of us. You know.
Right. So am I correct in that it costs us money to do the recycling? We're not making money off that, correct? Okay. So I didn't want to take anything away from what we were doing, but I thought it may save us money by encouraging folks to go to that Pickens Recycling Center.
Well,
and I do see it.
Karleen, one of the things that is happening is that because of the recycling, what Pickens County, for example, has done is they have eliminated what's called C&D waste. And we're actually getting C&D waste from Pickens County and as far as Cherokee County because they no longer take it. Bannon County is the same way. Now, they're still taking C&D waste. But recycle is not the only waste product that is required to have a well-rounded solid waste program. You have to be able to take it all. They're fortunate in Pickens County that they have a landfill. There's a C&D landfill and a landfill in close proximity in walking around and in Gilbert County. So they're going in a different direction than what we are and what we have been providing to our citizens for years. But I wish them all the success in the world.
I'm not cutting ours or trying to be them. I'm just making sure that I was right and that it would save us money by Gilmer County residents going
Well,
there.
if you pay attention to the reports that I give you, in September, we handled 40.87 tons of recycling. And we paid 100% of the cost of disposal. But we'll talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Boy, do we have enough data? Because I want to hear.
No.
I really thought this meeting was next Wednesday, and I had my BS session lined up for next Wednesday, but anyway. I'm on like number 7 and number 8, pool designers, trying to find an engineer. The one that I was working with, and I won't mention any names publicly for their own good, but I am working with 2 more now that have started in the last week and first of this week. Trying to get some information. The one that I mentioned last time in California is this one. So that's all I've got right now. I don't know why you give me these fun projects. But anyway. Thank you.
Thank you
For not asking questions.
All right, that brings us to citizens wishing to speak. Anybody that would like to comment on any subject?
My name is Leland Lee Johnson. You appointed me this summer to a 3-year term at the Highland Rivers Health Governing Board, and I want to thank you for that and let you know that I have been elected the vice chair, which I think is the first time Gilmer County's had a leadership position on the governing board. My wife has been appointed to the foundation board. And all I would encourage you is if you have an opening on Gilmer Family Connections, I know I've already said it, but I'm interested, so keep me in mind. Thank you again for your time.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Good morning. My name is Paige Green, Plateau. And I am here to give you, I apologize to Edwina about not asking to be put on the agenda. I wasn't sure that I would be here. I'm on this long extended farewell tour. As you all know, my last day will be October 30th, but I wanted to give you your third quarter update before I departed. And I'll do it very briefly because I'm not on the agenda and you guys have a long agenda, but I have copies here for everyone. Okay. So really quickly before we get into the numbers, we subscribe to a market trend software called AirDNA that is industry leading and gives us an insight into how we are comparing what the trends are. AirDNA does rank the LJ market as an A+ market, which is fantastic. And that is based on rental demand, revenue growth, seasonality, which is one of the areas where we need to perform better. We rank at 68 out of 100, but that has definitely improved over the years that I've been here. Regulation is a 75, a high score means low regulation. And investability, meaning investing into rental property, is good. So we do have an A+ market grade, which is phenomenal. Air DNA also tells us that occupancy for August of 2020 was at 87%, as compared to 63% in August of 2019. This is not going to come as a surprise to anyone who has been in town the last few months. The ADR, or average daily rate, which we suspected had been increasing when we saw the tax dollars increasing, actually has remained relatively unchanged. Average daily rate is about $223 a night. Those rate increases we saw over 2018 into 2019. And inventory, which I know there's been some conversation about that. According to Air DNA, December of 2019, we had an inventory in LJ and Cartier. And I'll explain why I specifically talk about those. So LJ, Cartier, up to like White Path, Buckhorn, it eliminates Cherry Log. Cherry Log is a different reporting sector. So December 2019, they reported 716 rentals. December of 2020, 653. So you actually see a decrease in the inventory. That does not surprise me. There was actually folks who withdrew their properties from lodging during COVID. So that is not surprising. We have also seen a lot of changes. If you talk to a realtor lately, everything is selling. If you have a house that you do or don't want to sell, you probably can sell it today. And we're seeing a lot of change in the properties, especially in the rental market, going to new owners. Cherry Log is not included, as I mentioned, because those are split between Fannin and Gilmer County. So I could not legitimately say all of those were reporting into Gilmer. And there's 139 active listings in Cherry Log. So kind of a snapshot of what we're seeing from Air DNA.
Paige, can I stop you? So we don't have that in print, right? We're not looking at that, right?
We're not looking at that.
Okay, when you said, tell me what the dates in the December, the first one you said was December?
2019
And then the second one?
was August of, well, probably would have been September of 2020.
Okay, I think you said December.
I think I said December.
Yeah, okay, so that's August.
Yes.
Okay, of 2020.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarification.
Okay. So what you have in front of you is your January to September report. I will try to go through it. I can tell you I've been doing this for 2 decades now. And 2020 has been unlike anything any of us have ever seen. When we come to you every October with a budget, it's of course a forecast of what we expect, and it's based on trends and historical data over the years of what we've seen. None of us saw 2020 coming. First 4 or 5 months, we were very concerned that we were all going to bottom out. What we saw was the opposite of that. And so what you'll see at the very bottom is the 2020 forecast that was presented to you a year ago, and the actuals for January through September. You can see that we have already exceeded what we anticipated in collecting for the entire year of 2020. So with that comes a challenge on our end. We are legally required to spend 40% in tourism, convention, and trade, promotion of our area, and the servicing of our guests and visitors. So we have fulfilled that 40%. However, that has left about $200,000 that's been collected. That money is now sitting in a money market at Bank OZK, because we feel very strongly that we had to take a step back, and I mentioned that in conversation with you guys before. We pulled advertising when we were at stay-at-home, when we were under stay-at-home orders. We also have been very gentle to go back to market because we were seeing such an influx. So we asked your grace and understanding that we want to be good stewards of that money, and that we will continue to work with you to spend that over the next several months, but it will not, and it has not been spent because of what we were facing in the last several months. We don't want to just go out and spend it. We want to make sure that it is spent in an appropriate way. That also may mean that we can increase our tourism product development. We are in conversation with a project that I think you all will be excited about some of that, about that tourism product development money. But with that, that is the report for first through third quarter. The last 2 pages are your letter from the auditors, Welch, Walker & Associates. They have completed the agreed upon procedures as required by law, stating that there are no exceptions and no findings with the hotel motel tax for 2019. Casey Joe finished that recently. Unfortunately, it was a little delayed because COVID. Just seems to be the answer these days. But wanted to give you guys that report. I will be in town and working with my executive committee and board of directors over the next several weeks. I'm not sure about your budget hearings and things like that, but our contract does require a budget for 2021 to be presented. We may just have to email that to you, and certainly we'll be available to answer any questions or if you have any concerns about that. But we are just in that changing of the guard right now. So on a personal note, I just want to thank you all for entrusting me personally and the commissioners that sat before you over the last 12 years. It's always been a pleasure to be able to come and share the good news and be the cheerleader for the county. So with that, unless you have any questions, it's my last and final report.
I would just say that I can't think of anyone that I would rather have entrusted that to than you. And you are going to be sorely missed and wish you best of luck.
I'll second that.
And we'll pass it. Thank you. All the way around. All the things. Thank you, Paige.
My name is Tom Harris. I live in Buckhorn Estates. I'm the president of the Buckhorn Property Owners Association. And our rules say no short-term rentals are allowed, and we're having to deal with that right now. So I'm going to tag in on that and see if I can find out who in Buckhorn is doing short-term rentals. We have sent out 4 letters to people who are doing it, telling them to cease.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if not, then we will go to unfinished business. There's a couple of items there. The first one, in terms of the airport security proposal, there's nothing given in the report. But under the category of unfinished business, in terms of the CARES funding that we've done, we continue to get requests for COVID-related expenses, and I've got some that I need to bring to y'all. The first is through the courts. The court order is that we will begin again having grand jury proceedings, and they intend to have them, at least the initial plan was to have them in here. I think now that might be changing the order to see. So we have a request from the judicial system for 2 air purifiers, 1 for air, 1 for courtroom seating, and 4 UV lights that can be used to sterilize the rooms. The combined cost of that, all those would be $3,800. From the sheriff, we have a request for the standalone temperature, where people can just walk up to it and it'll display your temperature. and also some plexiglass dividers in some of the courtrooms. The total of that will come to $3,200. So the combined total for those requests will be about $7,000. These appear to be very valid COVID-related requests that are associated with kind of opening things back up again. I would propose in the CARES funding, we had it's kind of a catch-all, and we labeled it as the lift station expenditures, $30-some thousand. And we said at the time that if we had to change it, it would come from that line item. So I will be proposing tomorrow night that we reduce that line item by $7,000 and provide this air purification and UV equivalent that has been requested for the courthouse. Any comments or questions from you?
I don't have any problem. How about you keep straight tomorrow night? So
Yeah. Well, tomorrow night you'll have the specific items, type purifiers, and all that stuff.
I mean, I changed the standard funding.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No big deal.
Yes, you'll have
I don't have a problem.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's the only thing I have under unfinished business, which will bring us to item 1 under action items. Discussion of possible action on Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association's presentation. And we've got some folks here, Terry, and sorry I don't pronounce the other gentleman, who will speak to us on that.
Well, thank you for putting us on the agenda. I wanted to give you an update on the project, the Sassafras project, which is in Gilmer County. It's about 1,000 acres at southeastern Pennsylvania. We are deep in the conceptual planning process, and we are not going to be ready.
I'm sorry, but we may have to pull that down. I can't tell what you're saying.
Thank you.
So,
I'll start over again. So the Sassafras project, we are deep in the conceptual planning process of it. And we're not going to be ready to submit an application to the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, which is due October 16th. We're finding in this conceptual planning process that there's a lot of details. It's going to be a big project, possibly 30 to 40 miles of shared use trails, along with other amenities, and there's a lot of details that we need to make sure that we do before we submit an application. So we're going to take a step back, take a year, and finish all the planning processes, make sure that we have good community involvement and input before we submit an application. But we did identify one area that the Gilmer County would be concerned with, so I can have Will Case, who's the president of the Friends of Commonwealth Reserve, and also he's on the Sassafras Committee.
As Terry said, I will say, president of the Friends of Poppin Rock Park that Steve will develop in Pickens County. One area of this future concern for the Board of Commissioners is that once the planning process is complete, we have an idea of what the park will actually look like. We will move to permanently conserve the land, and so that will be a dip in the tax digest for the county once that property is permanently conserved. I think Bill Jones and the President Steve Wolf said that recently they paid about $28,000 in property taxes for that land, which is impressive. But with that decrease in the tax digest, we hope that there will be a corresponding increase with debt tax and sales tax from additional users. Several hundred people at unique visitors at the park in Pickens County every week. We anticipate the park roughly twice that size will have a greater number of people. Any questions at this time?
let me ask you, Is there an area around there, and all I know is Talking Rock, I have no more specific directions than that, was a sacred Cherokee place, from what I was described, it was an area where warring tribes could come and discuss and not kill each other.
I've heard that. I've also heard that it was a playing field for like a Native American version of the cross. Visiting that area, like it was like a kind of like a festival for different tribes. I've heard that. There's no evidence of that at our particular location of the park there.
Okay, that's not.
Yeah, but I think further into the Meadowlands, the bottom of Talking Rock, I've heard that before.
Okay.
I cannot speak to the truth of that.
I just wanted to see if that was in any way part of your area.
No, sir, not at our park location.
Well, I'm an avid user of that park.
Okay, great.
So thank you for what you've done and added value to this area.
Oh, yeah, I'm very happy to be a part of that. Any further questions? So we'll continue to update the board as we progress. With this step back, it's really a step back to do a better job and to create a park that everyone's going to use. Sometimes with these talk about projects that are going forward, there's some concern, but we have a park in Davis County that we've done. We're doing the same thing there, but this is going to be bigger. Yes. We're very excited about it.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to a discussion of possible action on performance of the North County Library Board. I understand Dr. Atkins is resigning from the board for lack of time, and they have requested Jody Henry as a replacement. So we can put that name forward tomorrow night if y'all have any candidates. So then we will propose Jody Henry for that. Resolution to adopt the 2021 annual update of capital improvements element for Gilmer County and the cities of Helija and East Helija. We have had the required public meeting on that. And each of us, each entity needs to approve it. So I would recommend tomorrow night we approve of that.
Mr. Chairman, I thought we approved this last month.
I think last month what we approved was capital airport, capital improvement at the airport.
Not according to the minutes.
Okay, but, okay.
That needs to be validated. It was very.
That's right.
You know, we had a couple of conversations we had. It's something a little different from what we did last
I wonder if it was just our part and then now we're approving the whole, everyone's? I don't know. I didn't.
I don't know, but I do remember Ethan calling and specifically requesting it. Approved it.
The one last month may have been allowing the sewer and water authority to the impact fees. I think that may have been the distinction between the two, is the package. I may not be correct on that, but I think some of the first one that comes through and is presented has to do with the authority, not necessarily the point of sewer, but the authority for an entity to charge an impact fee.
Can you give Ethan a call and have that information for us tomorrow Wednesday? That would work okay.
Sure.
Which then would bring us to the capital improvement of it for the airport. We do need to approve that. And we just got that recently, so.
You also just got it this morning,
Yeah.
like 7:30 Friday.
Yeah. So we don't have to decide anything this morning, but you'll have an opportunity to go win down tomorrow night.
We'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
I guess the main thing I would say is that it is a plan, it's not a commitment.
It is not a commitment, and I want to emphasize that. It's not a commitment on anybody's part, just a planning document.
I'm good.
Okay, discussion and possible action on memorandum of agreement between Gilbert County and the Integrated Public Alert Warning System. We've actually approved this one time before too. But Keith Sarah has indicated that another entity requires that we approve this again. So I'll do the same with Keith that we did with, that we're doing with Ethan. I'll get with him and get the details of why we have to do this again between.
Yeah.
Discussion and possible action on the engineering master agreement at the airport. We actually,
Sorry, we're back to this, I think this is Helija and the first one is
I believe that's correct, but I'll verify that with you. Okay. This is back on the engineering master agreement at the airport. The first advertisement should be running in this week's paper. And we'll advertise it for 2 weeks, and we've got an entire process that we're going to have to go through in order to get this done, get it all approved. But we have hit a bit of a complication here in that we're going to have to approve some funding for this. It turns out that the process that we're going through now, we should have already gone through. None of us knew it, and it's taken us all by surprise, and that's one of the reasons why we're in such a rush to try to get this thing through now. The net result of this, though, is that it's going to cost us money, because the engineering fees that have been approved and paid for the airport projects from 2018 forward, since we did not have this in place, are no longer valid. And we are going to have to repay $156,375. We've been fighting this for a while, and we've come to the point that it's, I think we're all in agreement, it's better to stop where we are and pay this than to pursue it further and make it pay more. The reason that I'm bringing it up today, obviously, is because we've got to allocate money. And what I'm going to propose, and I'll have this in a sheet for y'all tomorrow. And Jim is not aware of this yet, but we have some over $500,000 appropriated in the 20 budget for this station. And that is over and above the grant that we got for, I think it was 286 or something like that. And those two together will fund that lift station. What I'm going to propose is that this particular money here come from the remainder of what we had under the CARES Act for lift station, after we took the $7,000 we discussed earlier. And that whatever else needs to would come from that reduction of that $500 or some thousand allocated in the capital budget in 20 for the lift station. It will not be used in 20. We were going to carry it over to 21, which means we'll have to allocate some additional money in 21 to fill that back out again. But it keeps us from having to dip into our reserve in 20.
What about the additional funding that?
We actually could use that for this, but that, we would have to do a budget amendment to include it on the revenue side, on the expenditure side, not the problem.
Right.
But what I would like to suggest would be that we do it this way, so that we can try to work this out to where we have the maximum capital amount possible to apply toward the road capital budget for next year. And I know, in the end, it comes out the same money.
First thing, the sign.
It's just a more convoluted process. I don't want to be accused by somebody of transparency issues. Now, it makes no difference to me which way we do it. Because the net results will be the same.
I don't have a real preference. I just thought that when you did, you wrote it up.
Well, and that is the logical first thought, but because that involves 3 to 4 transactions rather than one, I'm concerned that some folks who are upset with us right now.
Okay, you got the background, I don't have, that's fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine. But we've corrected whatever we know now, what we did wrong.
We know what we did wrong, it won't happen.
Never say never. We hope it won't.
We certainly hope it won't happen again, and if it does, I'm probably lying to you, taking something else. So, okay, I probably shouldn't have joined you back then. Discussion and possible action on broadband changes to the courthouse. Item 7. It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago when we had to increase our bandwidth here at the courthouse. At that time, we were at 25 megabits per second. That was kind of the dawning of the cloud, what I'll call the cloud revolution. More and more people here in the courthouse, more and more departments and agencies were moving things to the cloud, and the additional traffic just really slowed things down. What we're seeing now is sort of a variation on that, in that, first of all, for the last few years, that migration to the cloud has really accelerated. We're seeing a lot more of that. But with COVID, what we're seeing now is just a massive number of video conferences, Zoom conferences, and those things just require just mega bandwidth. So what we're seeing is we're back to being slowed down again, and it's the same reason in the sense it's the cloud, but in this case it's more Zoom conference type things and video conferencing that actually require more bandwidth than file storage in the cloud. So I checked BGC, and right now we're at 50 megabits per second. The next step would be 100. We're currently paying $985 a month. For a 36-month term, it would go to $13.95. But there's a 60-month term for $12.75. Now, with that 60-month, and you'll notice at the top there, it says you can upgrade and downgrade anytime without any penalty. I don't see why we wouldn't go with the 60 months and save that money. If we decide we need more, or even if we decide that's too much, we want less, we can always go back with no penalty. So,
Let's do it.
okay.
But they agree.
All right. Discussion and possible action on 2021 employee insurance renewal. All right, Gilmer.
Okay, I've got Tommy Hayes with MSI, who's our insurance benefit broker. So he's here, you guys have the packets on the insurance possible changes for January 1. So he's here to answer any questions if you guys have.
I don't have any, mostly because I've already asked you all my questions. But, there is one thing that I would like to point out, and that is, this is going to require, or it has the potential. Let me back up. This is going to cost us more money this year. That's not unusual for us. I guess the point that I would like to make is that for the last 5 years, the county has absorbed all the increases without raising the employees' participation any at all. This plan does include an increase in employee participation. And I hate that, but I believe that after 5 years, all things considered, this year, we may need to ask the employees for an increased participation in this. And that's the only comment.
Which plan are you proposing to go with?
Well,
One option, two?
we haven't really determined that. That was left for us and the board to determine.
Go over any changes, like, from staying on the current plan where there are no changes to option 2, which there are several changes.
If you could give us an overview of what those changes would be.
Sure. So obviously option 1 you see there on page 2, that's keeping everything exactly the same as it is right now. The percentage change, that would be like a 14.7% increase for 2021 for the county. And you'll see down in the employee biweekly deductions, if an employee was on the base plan, currently they're paying $47.10 per biweekly deduction pre-tax. It would move up to $54.10 for employee only. Changes from the coverage tier, so family coverage, there's 28 people on the plan, they're paying $143.64. They go to $164.98. Again, that's just keeping the plans exactly how they are. One with $3,500 deductible, the other with $2,500 deductible. They both have 80% co-insurance. And then the second option is on page 3, and that's making a few different changes there. For the base plan, you would still have a $3,500 deductible, but the co-insurance would go from 80% to 70%. So if an employee did meet their $3,500 deductible, the insurance would then pay 70% instead of the 80% up until the max out of pocket, which would be raised to $7,900 for an individual for 2021. Also, it's in red are the decrease in benefits, in green there's the increase. So your deductible, your copay for a doctor would go from 25 to 30, 50 to 60 for the specialist. ER would go from $150, $150 and 20% co-insurance to $350 and 30% co-insurance. So they're just smaller, nothing major, but they are decreases in benefits. And then on the buy-up plan, it's again the co-pays are going up a little bit, and you're having an increase in that ER deductible from $150 to $350 plus 30%. And then down below, you'll see what the bi-weekly deductions for the employees would be a little bit lower though. So instead of going from $54.10, we're just looking at the employee-only base plan, it'd be going to just $51.03. So it'd be a few dollars less for the employee, per pay. But they would have a few different changes in the plan. And then the dental, and vision, and life, there were no changes with that this year. All those rates are staying the same. So on the last page, on page 5, you can see what the net change would be. Option 1, when you're considering the dental, vision, and basic life life insurance and long-term disability. The change for the budget would be 13.76. And then for plan 2, it would be 8% or 8.05% change for that. So that's the main differences. On page 4, you'll see this would be, right now it's on a non-standard plan, so Anthem has some standard changes that they make. We've been on the same plan for a while, so that's why if we changed option 2, they would have a few different plan changes to align with Anthem's current medical plans that they offer. And on page 4 outlines a few other just standard changes that Anthem's made for 2021. Basically, their wellness incentive will be changing, physical therapy and occupational therapy will be under a primary care doctor visit instead. So there's the Life Health Online, which is the FaceTime with the doctor, would be free for the first 12 weeks. So those are just outlining the other standard changes if you move to option 2.
What's the buy versus the base?
The difference between the two?
What is buy versus the base?
The main difference between the base and the buy-up are going to be your deductible, the deductible amount and the cost.
But now do we have the base or the buy-up, or is it optional?
You have 2, yeah, so the employee can pick. The employee has an option, you know, if they don't go to the doctor very often, they'd rather save a little bit more money from their deduction, they go to base, or if they'd like to buy up to the second plan, they have that option during open enrollment, which is coming up here. So it's just two plan options for the medical.
The last option on page 4, outpatient surgery, freestanding surgery procedure will be covered at a copay only. The 2020 was covered at copay and co-insurance. You kind of give me an example of what somebody might expect on that. I mean, are we just cutting out the co-insurance part?
Yeah, it sounds like it'd actually be a little bit more of a benefit because in 2020, you're paying a certain copay, and I don't have that exact number what the copay was, but you're paying that plus another 20% of the bill. So for 2021, it's going to be just the copay. You're not going to have that co-insurance that you're going to have to pay on top of that. So it's actually a little bit of a better benefit.
But the copay would cover it all. You know, when you lose your co-insurance benefit.
Yeah, you would just pay a copay for it instead of tacking on the co-insurance.
My only real concern between the two plans actually involves the standard plan, which, if I'm reading this properly, the co-insurance would drop from 8% to 70%.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, so now the way I'm reading this is it's going to cost this person an extra 10%. They have to pay.
Yes, so we're looking at option 2 on the base plan. The deductible would stay the same at $3,500. That co-insurance would drop down. So yeah, so they would be paying, instead of the insurance company paying 80% and the member paying 20%, now all of a sudden the insurance company's only paying 70% of the bill, and the member would be paying 30%. And they would pay that 30% up to the maximum out of pocket for the year, which would be going up a little bit. That's $7,150 for an employee, or per member, up to the $7,900. So that would be their total potential liability in their medical costs for the year, if you go with that one.
Okay, well, currently, if we stay with option 1, it stays at 80%. It's only if we go to option 2 that we'll drop down to 70%.
Correct.
I guess that would be my concern with option 2, is that could potentially cost some people a whole lot of money, depending on what the problem was.
Yeah, the co-insurance is probably the main change in that. The other things are, about $5 change in copay.
Yeah, I didn't see anything else between the two that concerned me, but
Yeah, the main difference I'd look at is that co-insurance moving from 80% to 70%, and your maximum out of pocket going from 7,150 to 7,900. That's for both that base and the buyout plan. That max out of pocket.
You deal with employees more than I do, Mr. Chairman. Look like option one is the best.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking, which is essentially our current.
Right.
Option two will be cheaper, but not so much cheaper that I think it would overcome what could happen to somebody.
I agree.
Now, in an ideal world, we'd go option two to save money, but first time somebody has some real problems.
I agree.
Let's see, I don't see enough, there aren't enough benefits to make the change, in my opinion, because of that effect now.
So if we say that we want to stick to option one, and that we will go with the increased employee participation, that'll work for everybody. Okay. Anything else? Give us what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Martin Schuldner had guests too, so I'm good about that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no.
Does anyone want an extra copy or anything?
I've got what I need. Y'all want a held copy?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, before we go any further, Keith Casera is aware of the fact that every time he comes to see me, there's a certain price to pay. Okay. So, we were discussing a while ago, I was going to call you and ask you this since you're here. The approval that we're doing again, for the, what was it,
I passed integrated public awareness, public awareness, I passed.
yeah, the phone system thing. You told me why we need to do it again, but I didn't write it down, so I need to let them know why.
That's not a problem. Good morning, Commissioners. So the actual IPAWS plan, it's not actually an agreement between Gilmer County and IPAWS. This is a plan that the state of Georgia requires in order for us to participate in that federal program. So we have to have a plan in place that explains how we will use it, what required drills or exercises that we have to do monthly to be in compliance and be able to use that federal program. It doesn't cost anything. All it is just an outline of a plan that we're required to have on file with both the county and the state before we can proceed with getting that federal access to the IPAWS program. So this is just a plan. It doesn't cost any more money, any less money, nothing changes there. It's just, like I said, it's a plan that has to be in place that outlines how this program is going to be used in Gilmer County.
So we're approving a plan.
Yes, sir. It would be a plan. It's not an agreement. This is a plan.
All right.
Good.
Thank you. You're welcome. Appreciate it.
Does that cost me any more money?
Didn't cost you anything.
I'll knock on Jim's door.
What I want to do tomorrow night on the agenda is reword that.
Okay. Now, we've got a number of zoning requests here, and it just seems to me that we can dispose of all of these pretty quickly.
Yes.
They're all the same person, and they're all for the same purpose.
Correct.
And that purpose is to combine lots and make them A1 so that they can put in bathhouses and other infrastructure that they need to be, that the health department is making them do in this county.
You will bring the property into compliance with zoning and
microphone.
Correct. The total reason for this is to comply with the zoning ordinance and in order to do the requirements from environmental health or bathhouses and just different elements that they need. Is changes to the property and the ordinance requires that you comply with the zoning and you make a change to a non-conforming use. The director just didn't have it zoned like it should have been at the beginning of the zoning. So it was considered a non-conforming parcel, all of them. And Sean wants to combine them all and then, comply so that you can make necessary changes to them.
So the net result of all of these is to move the pieces of property into A1 and to put on the conditional use. Personally, I'm good with all of it.
And there was no objections, I understand it.
That's quite a bit of support.
Well, then, which makes me kind of asking if anybody can executive session. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Hubert, I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, made a little second.
I thought you were going to jump right in on that.
What's the rate?
Yeah, that's usually your thing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks, we appreciate it.